payday for most people, but banks are warning customers all across the country your deposits could be delayed. Devon Ramin following the story tonight. What's causing this problem, Devon?
Well, Lynn, the good news in all of this is that today's delay was not due to any sort of cyber attack or hack, but the Federal Reserve says human error is to blame. Tonight, customers of some of the nation's largest banks, including Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo, are wondering when they'll see their paychecks. Many woke up to notifications like this one, alerting customers of a glitch and temporary delay to direct deposits. The Federal Reserve issuing this alert to banks across the country, stating the delays were due to a processing issue at the Automated Clearinghouse, what many know as ACH. It's the processing system which allows banks to send electronic payments like direct deposits and payments for online bills. Notices to customers at impacted banks stressed that deposits remain safe and the money will show up eventually. Now, the feds say that systems are back up and running normally tonight, but it's unclear when delayed money will be hitting accounts. We did speak with one man earlier this evening who didn't want to go on camera, but was anxious, as many people are wondering how they're expecting to pay their bills. Lynn?
Yeah, I bet they are wondering. Eventually is the word that scares people. Thanks, Steve.
Thousands of people are still waiting for their money tonight. U.S. Bank, Wells Fargo, Huntington Bank, everyone shared the same message about a deposit delay. Danny Spiewak explains what happened and when you'll see your money.
From Minneapolis-based U.S. Bank to Wells Fargo to Bank of America, some of the nation's largest banks experienced disruptions Friday with direct deposit. The Federal Reserve says it's because of a processing error with the centralized system known as the Automated Clearinghouse.
It wasn't at one of the banks. It was actually in the plumbing that feeds those deposits into the banks.
Greg McBride is the chief financial analyst for Bankrate.com.
It's unsettling going into the weekend to not see the deposit there that you had expected to see when you got up this morning.
The clearinghouse says this impacted less than 1% of daily transactions, but that's still thousands of users. Across the country, people flooded social media with complaints, asking if others were having problems with direct deposit too. One person wrote, "Direct deposit being messed up when rent is due is crazy."
But your money is safe, and the banks are working to get that corrected with the provider.
For example, U.S. Bank said in a statement that customer accounts remain secure and balances will be updated when deposits are received.
The money will be there. What you want to do is make sure that any payments that were scheduled to come out today, that those creditors are notified, that you're not assessed any late fees, and that if there were any overdraft fees that you incurred, that the bank reverses those.
There is no timetable right now for when all of these direct deposit issues are going to be fixed. The clearinghouse and the banks themselves say they're working together to fix this as soon as.
Big banks have been quietly cutting jobs, and more layoffs could be coming. Hugh is here now in the studio. Who's doing it and why?
Hey, Tyler, great to be with you. So the headline here is that any bank not led by Jamie Dimon has been cutting jobs this year. If you look at the big six banks who've all reported, Wells Fargo is the biggest sort of perpetrator here. They've cut about 11,000 jobs, or about 5% of their workforce just this year alone. And you look at another one, and that's, apart from Wells Fargo, there's also Goldman Sachs. And both of these institutions have had these, businesses that are hit into the wall of high interest rates, whether it's, advisory or trading on the hand of Goldman Sachs, or with Wells Fargo, they had a huge mortgage business, which obviously has sputtered to a standstill. And so these are the little stories within the larger story. And the larger story is that if you look at these five banks, they've cut about 20,000 jobs so far this year.
Why has J.P. Morgan not chosen to go that route? What's different about
J.P.
apart
Morgan,
from J.P.
Dimon? He's a lot of it. So they are in a category of one here. They're still growing. They picked up First Republic. That added 5,000 jobs. And I thought that would be much of it, but really that was just a third of the 15,000 jobs they picked up. So they're growing their net interest income, they're growing their deposits, they're growing their revenue, and they're still, they're actually growing their branch network as well. So, apart from that and the tech investments, they really are firing on all cylinders right now.
I may be catching you off guard here, but of course earlier this year, UBS took over Credit Suisse. What's happened there? Do you know?
Yeah, massive consolidations, right? So when you combine two huge global investment banks. They do a lot of the same things. So unsurprisingly, you're going to see high double-digit job cuts, and they're enacting on those cuts to make the whole thing work.
What about the mid-size or the regional banks? Are they doing the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, so they're about to report. So we're actually still seeing those figures come out, whereas the big six have reported, and that's why we have those numbers. I would suspect that their employment levels are going to edge down. And the analysts I spoke to have this thesis, which is, credit has been really good. You're going to see corporate and consumer loans start to fail next year. And when they do, you're going to see folks have to rein in the expenses. And the one way they could do that is to cut jobs.